Welcome to Talk About Tatooine. I'm Andrew.
I'm Nathan.
And we are twin brothers here to bring you what's new in nerddom and give colorful commentary on our favorite subjects. Welcome to our cantina. Grab a drink and settle in as we set course for realities beyond our own.
All right, guys. Today we are going to be finishing our discussion on Marvel's Secret Invasion. Today's date is July 29th. And this is episode 37, which if you guys listened to last week's episode, I also said last week's episode was 37. It was 36. So my bad. I'll be fixing it in post. And this is going to be released on Monday, August 7th. So pretty bonkers that we're that far into the year already. Very, very excited about that. We're going to go over our starter question really quick, guys, and then stick around. We've got a lot to go over because we're covering episodes 4, 5, and 6, basically the finale of the last half of the season, and we're going to give all of our thoughts. It's going to be a good time.
What game are you most excited about in the near future?
I am excited about a few different things. So really, this is all dependent on how many upgrades I can make to my office, because I can't play hardly anything. To give you guys context for what I'm playing on right now, I am playing on a PC that is running a graphics card with a 790, a GTX 790. So not even the 1000 series, the less than 1000 series GPU. Super crazy. My Xbox is an Xbox One original refurbished model. So it is the worst possible Xbox One you can get.
It's still trucking, though.
It doesn't even load Minecraft well anymore. I'm going to be honest. Yeah, it's pretty rough. So if I can get things upgraded, I am looking forward to playing Star Wars Outlaws and Stormgate. I am so excited to play Stormgate because I've been playing a ton of StarCraft recently, and I'm super excited to keep that RTS flow going. It's going to be great.
Yeah, for me, there's a lot of different stuff I'm really excited for, and a lot of them are single-player games. Usually, I typically only get excited about multiplayer games I can play with you and our little squad of friends. Anything other than that, I'm not really excited about. The new Modern Warfare 2 looks great, but that's not really the kind of multiplayer I'm into. I'm into more of cooperative type missions. I don't have the time or the energy to be good at multiplayer games anymore. I have lost all fast Twitch skills. In gaming terms, I'm basically a geriatric vegetable because I'm almost 30.
Yeah, so, you're basically a boomer.
That hurts. Don't say that. I would rather you call me a vegetable.
Okay.
Sorry. Okay, so the games I am excited for are Outlaws, Star Wars Outlaws, to be clear, Starfield, which comes out in September, which is like space Skyrim.
I forgot about that.
It's going to be on Game Pass. So whether or not this podcast keeps being recorded, I'm just going to be like, peace. And I'm going to be out. I do have the newest, most powerful Xbox. So I will be able to play it. I'm so sorry. Without
it's okay.
You.
I'll just have to come over and play.
I'm also really looking forward to Space Marine 2. This has a 3-player co-op, and that is currently the size of our squad that we run is 3 players. And we're huge Warhammer fans. And the first Space Marine game was fun. It came out like 10 years ago. Can you believe that?
What? It came out 10 years ago?
It came out on the Xbox 360. Let me look this up real quick. 2011.
12 years old. That's crazy.
It totally slapped, though. Like, it felt really punchy. It felt really powerful. You got to do all the things you really wanted to do as a Space Marine, and this is going to be no different, except for it looks phenomenal. Here's the thing. If you're going to come out with a sequel 12 years later, it's got to be good.
It has to be good.
Has to be good. Looking at you, Battlefront. You can't just reboot a series and not give it, I don't know, things like a campaign. Or if you do give it a campaign, just be like, fine, here's your campaign. It's rude. Although Battlefront 2 the new Battlefront 2 ended up being one of the best Star Wars games ever.
It was until EA said I couldn't play it anymore.
Yeah, sorry. real quick before our spoiler warning, we want to give a big shout out to our new patron, Luke Skywalker. Between filming, hey, that's what they want to call themselves. That's what we'll call them.
Let's go.
Let's go. Welcome to the club. We're happy to have you. By the time this is filming, you're already entered into the lightsaber giveaway, which for us is going to happen in the future, but by the time you're listening to this, it will have happened in the past. So that's fun. Time travel, sort of.
Time travel.
Which you hate. But anyway, Luke Skywalker, welcome to our little cantina. We're so happy to have you, and we really appreciate you. Nathan, hit us with that spoiler warning.
All right, guys. So if you guys have not seen Secret Invasion yet, or specifically episodes 4, 5, and 6, we are spoiling it. We are talking about all of the cool things, all the bad things, and basically we are just finishing out our kind of mini-series on this mini-series. So we're going to start off with our... Oh, you know what? Before I do that, make sure, if you guys are listening, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. If you guys are watching on YouTube, that's where you guys get all the fun stuff. You guys are going to get little shots of my dogs playing in the background. Hopefully I was muted for most of that, so we'll see. And if you guys are listening, then you guys just get to hear the occasional dog bark. But make sure you guys like and follow wherever you guys are listening or watching, because it really does help and support us. And we're going to be doing some really cool things with like more giveaways in the future.
Yeah.
The lightsaber giveaway has generated a little bit of hype and has honestly, like, our Discord has been super fun already. Like, I'm just really enjoying all of the Discord and the Discord server, and it's just been a fantastic time. So, and keep in mind, if you guys support us for even 1 month, you do get lifetime access to the Discord server. That is a perk that sticks with you. So we're super happy to get people's support. And when we get more support, we can do more stuff. So we're really excited about planning that out. And we're happy to bring you guys along with us. We're going to start off with our rating, 1 out of 10.
So I read your notes after I wrote mine. I would give episodes 4, 5, and 6 a 7, a 5, and a 3, respectively. I thought they stunk it up and they biffed the landing. I thought they crashed this show right into the tarmac with a subpar kind of phoned in ending. Don't get me wrong. There were some things about the ending I really liked. There were certain aspects of it that I thought were awesome. However, there were some things that I thought, that's dumb, and it took me out of it. This being said, I feel like I do an adequate job of having a suspension of disbelief. I used to be a lot more critical than I am, and here we are doing reviews on things and being critical, but I used to be a lot more negative in my feedback than I was. I would go into movies almost like looking to find what was wrong with them. And that really started with some people in my life that were also that way. And I found myself having to equal their negativity in order to keep a conversation with them. And those people aren't really in my life anymore. And I find myself, I'm like, I don't have to hate things. I can just like what I want to like. Not everything has to suck.
A common thing I even tell my clients is life is too short. Like what you like.
I like that a lot.
I
enjoy
say that. I mostly say that because genuinely we do not know, like, your days are numbered and no one gives you an idea on how many days you got. So live your life, enjoy it, love those around you. And if you take enjoyment from something like a TV show that you may think is a little bit nerdy, be okay with that. You know, no one's going to hate you because you liked something that somebody else didn't like, you know?
Yeah.
So life's too short for that. Try to be positive when you can.
That is a message the entire internet needs to hear, because I see a lot on like Reddit or YouTube threads. If you disagree with somebody, people go as far as to say things like your opinion is so bad that you're a trash human being and you have no value.
Yeah, your opinion directly reflects your ability to be a good human being. And I'm like, that's not how that works. Also, one of my favorite memes, and this does relate, is going into the comment section, it's somebody putting on like a radiation suit. That's my favorite. And I'm like, that's literally what comment sections are. Yeah. And the bummer thing is like, that's why I love like our Discord and the stuff that we've gotten so far on Patreon, because people give us like good constructive feedback. And then they're like, hey, I really liked this video you did. Can you guys do more of that? And it's like, oh my gosh, positivity. And that's really what we're trying to cultivate. So that does bum me out that you didn't like these episodes as much as I did. Maybe I wasn't paying attention to the things that I didn't like as much, because I actually had a hard time writing out the things that I didn't like. And
that's awesome. That's great.
And so for me, maybe that was just like a I kind of anticipated. So let me give my rating. Is I
Sure
averaged
thing.
these together and I gave this an 8 because I uh, felt like I was watching this as a movie, because this was the series turned movie, and I felt like they did a good job on that. And I felt like in some ways the ending, there was that phone in ending, like Samuel Jackson, sorry, Nick Fury, gets to basically hop in his UFO. He completes the entire cycle of the series. He starts and ends coming out of the Saber shuttle or whatever that is. However, his work is far from done, and
Yeah.
I really liked that. I assumed Gravik was going to die, so the fact that he died, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. I'm I mean, I enjoyed it. I don't like the president. I felt like they did a really good job transitioning who the bad guy was, and they transitioned it from scroll to human. And that is
Yeah.
so accurate to what would happen, because if there were aliens on Earth, there would be like half of, let's be honest, half of the government, even in our country, which is where this takes place, and they'd be like, yep, eradicate all the aliens, get them out, kill them, shoot them on sight. That would be their first
Yeah.
response. And
They're
then
like,
you've
oh,
got
it's been so long in the United States since we've had a good old fashioned genocide.
yeah. So I'm like, that's 100% what would happen. And I feel like that wasn't necessarily a phone in ending, but it was oh shoot, that's exactly what would have happened. Yeah.
So I have a clarifying question. You said you didn't like what they did with the president. Is that because you're like, you didn't like where they went in that direction with the story, or you're like, oh, I really don't like this guy, he's a bad guy?
Second one. So
The
correct.
second one.
I felt like they did a good job at making me not like the president, because at first
Gotcha.
I have no qualms with him. No disagreements. You're like, yeah, and the presidential motorcade, which I actually loved that fight scene. I thought that was
great.
awesome.
I loved it.
So cool. I'll go over that in my favorite moments later. But you're like, yeah, he's the president. So you're like, for us as Americans, that's like, he's the good guy. The president's always a good guy. The president's never a good guy. And like, they did a really good job at like, oh my gosh, he's coming under attack, all these things, the scrolls are trying to like put world powers against each other, and they attacked the president and they almost killed him, and now he's under threat. And it's just like, I felt like they built up a lot of suspense. And then meanwhile, they're basically like, yeah, he hates scrolls now, which totally makes sense, because from his perspective, he was being lied to by a scroll.
Yep.
He was being attacked by scrolls.
Affirmative.
And at every point, he didn't know who he could trust. And that set him up. But from our perspective as the viewer, you're like, no, you only interacted with the radicals. You only interacted with the terrorists. But for him, it's like, he's like, they're shapeshifters. What's the difference? And you're just like, oh no. So I thought that was really compelling, but it made me dislike his character, which I like to dislike the bad guys. I feel like if they do a good job building that up, that's fantastic.
Either very hateable or very relatable bad guys are great. If you can see where a bad guy is like, oh, I can see where he's coming from. Like, he's still doing the wrong things, but for the right reasons. It's like, like you have this like inner turmoil, but he's like, oh, he got the wrong message, and now he's totally radicalized against these radicals, which was the whole point. So in that respect, I loved it. Oh, je puppy. I really liked that the scrolls didn't get redeemed. Not to say that I don't like the scrolls. I really, really like the scrolls. Since they show up in Captain Marvel, since that point, I've been a fan of them. I'm like, they're refugees. You learn to love them, and you learn to really see what their story is and hear their plight. But then you see that in almost a very human way, a people group can only take so much abuse before some of them snap.
Yeah, you really have to get to that breaking point eventually, and I feel like they did a good job with that. Hit me with some of your favorite moments from these episodes. I would love to hear about it.
For sure. We talked a little bit about the motorcade ambush and how we really liked that. I love a good firefight. There's not really much else about that I really like, other than the fact it was really sad to see Talos get gunned down. That was hard. Seeing Gravik get shot in the face, I was like, ooh, excellent CGI there, guys. You really blew apart his skull.
That was gnarly for a Marvel scene. Like, that's as gory as you can make it without specifically being gory.
Interesting that they showed a fatal headshot and that Extremis can heal that. We're gonna hold that up here for.
I know where you're going with this, and I thought the
Yes.
same thing. Like, wait a second.
But we're talking about things we like, and I'm going to keep us on subject for once in the entire history of this podcast. Episode 5, we really start to see Sonia Falsworth. She's the British lady who has just this crazy, giddy intensity.
She's so fun.
Dude, she's
so awesome.
I was like, she is so chipper and polite, and then just like, I'm going to shoot you in the head. It's like, oh, shoot.
She reminds me of kind of like the Kingsman. That's what she reminds me of. And I'm like, yes, British people who are chipper, polite, and also shooting you in the face. Great.
Yeah, she does a great job. If something bad happens to her, I'm going to be really sad. I hope she doesn't get the Maria Hill treatment.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. Nobody's safe. Maria dies in this series. Talos dies. You think Gaia dies. I mean,
yeah, you think so.
They go through basically everything.
Yeah, for sure. F in the chat for Maria Hill. Moving on to episode 6, I really liked the confrontation between Skrull Rhodey, the president, Falsworth, and Nick Fury in the hospital. I thought that
was so cool.
Interaction was awesome because they're like, who's real? Who's real? Because like something about doppelgangers is inherently amusing.
I wonder why that is. A podcast led by twins?
I didn't even know what I said at first. I was like, where's he going with this? Yes.
I'm going there with us.
this entire podcast could be portrayed by a single meme, and that is Obama giving Obama a medal.
Yeah, pretty much.
But yes, I really liked that, and I also really liked that the real Rhodey and the real Ross are alive, and they didn't get nuked into oblivion.
Oh, thank goodness! So excited about that.
So I'm like, oh, thank goodness, because right from episode 1 where Skrull Ross jumps off a building, I was like, you don't know that Agent Ross is still alive. You don't know which one of the people they just kidnapped or which ones they like, oh, this person died, so I took their identity, i.e. Priscilla. Like, she had like what, brain cancer or something? Like, she was like very, very sick, and Priscilla like befriended her. That was great. I mean, hopefully I'm not just dreaming that. That did happen, right?
No, that happened, and that was basically her death wish was, she was like, hey, I want to assume your identity. And she said, yes, but you need to live my life. Like, you need to live out some of my hopes and dreams that I had. And I was like, that's very sweet. It's so sweet and kind of sad.
Give us some of your favorites.
So I did the same thing. I took my favorites from episodes 4, 5, and 6. In episode 4, Beloved, I thought the presidential motorcade ambush was my favorite. We get a lot of people fighting. We get the... and I thought this was my favorite also because Talos died. And that is indicative of the plot armor that is not there for a lot of the characters. Nick Fury shows up, and even into episode 6, you think, oh, shoot, he's going to lose it. And he shows up to be really the only one that's still alive. And that just, I really like that when they do that to characters. It makes me like them more. It makes me value them more when they're around. So I really like the presidential motorcade ambush. And honestly, as I said earlier, Gravik getting shot in the face and then extremising his way back was super cool. So apparently you can re-go a part of your brain. Anyways, we'll get to more on that later. Episode 5, Harvest. I thought when Gaia and Priscilla are basically doing the back-to-back escape scene, and there are basically commandos dropping into their house, and they are just blasting fools into the wall. And Marvel doesn't use a ton of blood. There's a decent amount of blood in this scene. And because people are just getting their brains just absolutely capped out of their skulls.
Have to, you can't know they're Skrulls unless you see that purple blood splatter on the wall.
Some of it was red, though. Some of it was red. So I might need to go back and rewatch that just because I don't I will say, disclaimer, I did not pay attention to the color of the blood in that scene. So you might be right. They might have been scrolls, but also like scroll commandos, like that's terrifying. And then episode 6, Home. Honestly, Rhodey getting shot. So excited. I was like, they did a great job at making him just irritating and annoying. And it's like, you knew he's a scroll, like from like episode like 2 or 3 or something, and you're just like, okay, get this guy out of here. He's impersonating one of our favorite side characters. Like, get him out of here. And the fact that they just did that, and I said this earlier, but I thought they did a good job at making the president be the bad guy, and making him basically into the evil character that took the place of Gravik in the end. I felt like even though Gravik did get his butt whooped by Gaia in as who's also Super Skrull, apparently. She's a Super Skrull, but now they have the president who's actively hunting everybody, and they might have a way off planet. We don't really know yet, because the Kree are open to negotiations. Which, is that going to make the Earth more of a interplanetary force? I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see where those galactic politics go. Also, something that Rhodey reminded me of, he's totally the Grima Wormtongue of this series. He's just, he's slippery and nasty, and he's whispering things. He's like, these people are not welcome here, my lord. Oh, such good movies.
I will not get distracted with more Lord of the Rings quotes.
Saruman the Silly!
Shut up. I knew you were going to say that because I wanted to say it. Saruman the Stupid. What? Saruman the Silly. No! Okay,
Saruman
we're moving on.
The Stinky!
No.
Such a dumb meme. I'm going to post that in the Discord after this recording.
100%.
With no context whatsoever. Oh, we need a memes channel in our Discord. I'm getting distracted.
What were some of our theories? Let's move on. We're going to talk about our theories, and I'm pretty sure we're batting 0 on these.
Dude, I made 3 distinct theories, and I got them all wrong. So 3 strikes, I'm out. I now have to give up my podcaster title to someone else. It's probably going to be like my dog Barney, who's going to take up. He's just going to sit here in front of the thing and just go and just sniff into the mic the whole time. That was so dumb. I am very stupid.
No, we're keeping that in. I felt bad because when we were going over the stuff for San Diego Comic-Con and Spectrum, Monica Rambeau shows up in the Marvels trailer, I was like, yeah, she's not involved in Secret Invasion because she's involved in the Marvels. And I felt so bad for you. And I was like, oh, his theory got proved wrong by a trailer. Like, that sucks.
Hey, you can't get them all. Or in my case, you can't get any of them.
I don't think any of my
good at this.
Yeah, I don't think any of my episode theories turned out well either. If my internet would load, I had this loaded up on a different page, and it's now not loading because OneNote sucks absolute scrotum.
Gross.
Yes.
Real quick, my theories were, I thought Fury was going to die. He doesn't. I thought Talos was going to lead his people to the Promised Land. He doesn't. He dies. And then Monica Rambeau would show up to lead Saber after Fury dies, which I guess that's what I get for making a prediction based off of another prediction. If the first one's wrong, then the second one is definitely wrong.
Yeah, I had 2 predictions, and they can be boiled down to, I originally thought Don Cheadle's Rhodey was the real Rhodey. So I was super wrong about that. And I was like, oh, cool, we're going to see Iron Patriot. Like, we're going to see some Iron Man action, right? No, completely wrong. Missed that. And then in the first episode, we see MI6 kind of get sidelined, and then MI6 plays a huge role, specifically in, what's that character's name we had mentioned earlier?
Falsworth?
Sonia? Yes, Falsworth. Sonia Falsworth. She plays a huge role. And so I was like, oh yeah, this is just going to be, I'm like, the British intelligence are just going to get knocked out. I know that was kind of like a stupid kind of side theory, but I was so wrong in who, like she's in like episodes 3, 4, 5, 6. Like she's super important to everything going on. And I miffed it. Totally miffed it.
Yeah. She is sort of instrumental in, cutting off the head of several key, or I should say blowing their brains out, of several key Skrull infiltrations. I was a little surprised she wasn't a Skrull herself, because that's where I thought that was going. And I was like, oh, that's why Nick Fury is spying on her. It's like, well, he's spying because he's a spy.
Spy's gonna spy.
Spy's gonna spy. But guess not. Not a Skrull. Especially when she knew to cut off the finger of that one Skrull in the walk-in of that one restaurant. I'm like, huh, how did she know? I was like, how did she know unless she was a Skrull? And maybe she still is a Skrull. We don't actually see her blood or anything, but I'm so like,
she's really good at capping Skrulls, though. She kills quite a few of them.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like she's probably not a Skrull considering how many of them she kills, unless she's not one of the radical Skrulls. Really going down the garbage chute on this one. There's a little bit of lore I want to talk about in this episode, and that is of the Super Skrulls themselves. We haven't talked about the Super Skrulls basically at all. Seems like from what I'm hearing from you that the spy intrigue portion of this show was more entertaining than the actual Super Skrull program.
Yes, definitely. I felt like they stuck true to the genre. I felt like they did a really good job in making this more about the humans, the espionage, the balance of world powers, rather than like, all right, whoever's got the biggest superpower is going to win this fight. And they really only showed like the superpowers like once or twice. Very like short scenes, but they're not like, even when Gravik is fighting the motorcade, he's mostly using weapons. Like he's mostly using a gun because he's trying to, he even says before they go into that motorcade, they're like, all right, act as it was the opposite of remember no Russian. Yes. It was remember all Russian.
Only Russian.
Only Russian. And I really liked that.
I think my predictions were probably doomed to begin with, because some of the lore of the Super Skrulls is that they're kind of all villains in the comics. From some of the different reviews that I've watched and different like recaps, Screen Crush on YouTube is a really good source. Like he really knows his comic books, so I watch a lot of his videos explaining like, okay, who are these people? Who are these people? The Super Skrulls are bad, and they are on basically a religious crusade to take over Earth. Well, that's not what we see in the Secret Invasion show. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe other things about them will get implemented. And I was just wrong on all accounts. So for starters, let's see. Who are the Super Skrulls? True to the comics, the Super Skrulls are these like GMO, like Skrull GMOs merged with superhero DNA, and they get their powers. That is 1-to-1 with the comic in the show. That is totally great. But from there and like where they come from and what they do after that is totally different. Super Skrulls can literally do anything they're bestowed with, as long as they have that DNA. That's where we see Project Harvest comes in. But the Skrulls are bad guys. And we see that Gravik is a bad guy and he's a Super Skrull. So we're like, okay, 1 for 1. But then he doesn't make any other Super Skrulls. And then he inadvertently turns Gaia into a Super Skrull and then immediately gets murdered by Gaia. So now the only Super Skrull is a friend of at least Nick Fury, but now they are labeled as enemies of the state. So, and here's the thing. The United States has labeled Skrulls as kill on sight type beings. They are intruders. They're not allowed here. We don't see that the rest of the world feels that way. So it'll be interesting to see how world politics will play into, okay, how do we deal with the Skrulls? Because there are some states that probably will follow in step with the United States as far as foreign policy concerning the Skrulls, but there's probably other places that like we have no beef with them. Like,
I think it would depend more on treaties than it would anything else. So, for example, if a country is part of NATO, if the U.S. says, hey, this is a bad guy, then automatically that makes the Skrulls the enemies of every NATO country as well. So there's different treaties and stuff that would be taken into consideration, whereas an enemy of one is an enemy of all. So,
however, there's probably quite a few Skrulls in high up positions in NATO.
oh yeah, for sure,
because we see Sonya Fallsworth kill 2 or 3 different Skrulls that are kind of in high up positions. So she still has a lot of culling to do. And interestingly enough, I'm not sure that she actually agrees with the US president as far as like, okay, Skrulls are shoot on sight. I mean, she's killing the bad ones, but we don't know if that will carry over into then shooting the good ones. We don't know how people feel about Gaia. We don't know how Earth 616 is going to react to basically another Captain Marvel running around who does not have the same compunction to protect Earth. So it's going to be interesting. I think Secret Invasion has really laid the groundwork for more movies to be really interesting. Because right now, Earth has nothing to fear. Like, they beat Thanos. There was that one, not an Eternal, but that one thing from the Eternals movie that was going to, like, eat the planet, and nobody has mentioned it at all.
No, I think the Eternals are a step that Marvel's kind of like, we went there, don't know if they'll do anything, because it was a Celestial, right?
It was a Celestial, thank you.
Yeah.
And there is going to be a sequel, probably, but like the Eternals was not a great movie. Not that it was bad, but it was just boring, in my opinion. Not that I've ever been wrong about anything.
You've never been wrong ever.
So that's kind of a little bit of my lore on the Skrulls. There's not really much else to say other than they can just be whoever they want to be. And if they can get a hold of your DNA, superhero or not, they can become you. One critique of the show for why Nick Fury didn't call in his Avengers friends, other than just pride and hubris, I don't really think that's a very good reason to not call in help.
Yeah, it was kind of odd for him to not do that.
So this is my battle that I have to fight alone. I was like, that's a dumb reason. That being said, we should probably talk about the things we didn't like. And it sounds like the things that you didn't like are totally different than the things that I did not like.
So I did a bad job at, first of all, taking notes on this because I was like going through and trying to edit stream footage while also writing this. So I do apologize about that.
I just scrolled down and your notes are completely blank.
Yep. I did a bad job. I think really the thing I didn't like the most about these endings is every time a Skrull gets shot, people just accept it. And Nick Fury could have shot Rhodey like on episode 4 or in the hospital. He could have shot Rhodey in the hospital and he was like, no, they'll gun you down right away. And every time a Skrull gets shot and there's black blood and purple blood splattered on the wall, people are like, oh yeah, you got one. Nice. And so I'm like, why didn't he just shoot Rhodey and be like, look at all the black blood. It's not Rhodey. I'm like, it would have saved. Like we
would have saved a lot of time.
It's how it should have ended, essentially.
Yeah.
So I was a little annoyed at that. And then my biggest complaint was with the actual fight between Gaia and Gravik.
It was bad.
It
was lame.
You knew Gaia was going to win because like Gravik's not going to get away. That would be kind of weird. That just wouldn't really make too much sense. But the regenerative powers don't really seem to line up. So, for example, in episode 4, Gravik gets shot in the face, assuming part of his brain gets blown out, and it regenerates back. Then Gaia, basically, Captain Marvel punches his intestines out, and that kills him. And so I don't understand how a brain shot is less lethal than a chest wound.
Yeah, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. As soon as I saw that, I was like, why did that kill him? I was like, what is so special about Captain Marvel's energy that it would stop Extremis from working? Like, it wouldn't, right?
I don't know. And then also, if that was the case, why... You part of the cinematic was to cycle through all of the different powers. They wanted to showcase what DNA they had in there, which I was like, okay, that's fine. I'm like, you could have led with Captain Marvel's powers. I did not like the fight scene. I like when I rewatched the episode, I kind of actively skipped over it because I was like, this isn't like they're gonna trade powers because they're the same. And Gaia should never have won. Gravik's a better fighter. He's the Skrull general.
Yeah.
He's so much more ruthless. Like, what the heck?
There's nothing about the fight scene that even made sense. And why Gravik turned the machine on with Nick Fury / Gaia in there in the first place, because what he is counting on is an assumption that because of his Skrull nature and his ability to shapeshift and adapt, that he would become a Super Skrull and like just nothing would happen to Nick Fury. But if he paid attention to human history, I should say, if he paid attention to Earth 616 history even a little bit, is humans change all the time when their DNA is altered. All the time.
Can someone say
like,
Vita rays?
Vita rays, spiders,
Gamma rays.
Multiple encounters with different Infinity Stones on to like Quicksilver, Scarlet Witch, Monica Rambeau by proxy via Scarlet Witch, Captain Marvel. I'm like, hey, Gravik, you probably should have just kicked him out of there. Like, you probably should have assumed that whatever machine you made might also work on humans. Yeah, we can't shapeshift, but our DNA, hella spongy. We soak up all sorts of stuff, at least in the comics. In real life, the only thing that can happen to your DNA, really nothing. Nothing happens to your DNA.
It just turns into cancer.
It just turns into cancer. That's the only thing that happens. People are like, things change your DNA. I was like, no, it doesn't.
No, it mutates it, so it goes wrong. So here's what happened is this is the, and I would like to officially coin this if no one has coined this. This is the syndrome fallacy. You got me monologuing.
Oh my
Every
gosh.
time you get a villain monologuing and it's like, boom, you won. Like, they can't help themselves. I'm like, guys, stop making the villain monologue. We know what happened and why they did it. It's why we are the audience, not the character. You don't need to break that down for us. Even Theo's upset.
So here's what I would have done differently. We already know that Gaia has Extremis because she gets shot earlier by Gravik and heals.
In the heart.
In the heart. Kill shot. What we should have seen is we should have seen Gravik walk up to Fury, yell in his face, grab his head, and break his neck. Just straight up murder him.
Yeah, he should have just been ruthless about it.
Because then Gravik has no reason to kick the body out of the chamber. He's like, he's dead. I already killed him. He's not coming back to life. And then the Extremis heals, actually, who is Gaia. She stands back up. And then they have this glorious fight. And even, like, she might even, like, be able to like land the first punch because his back is turned, thereby equaling the playing field. Because Gaia is not as good of a fighter as Gravik. That is clearly established because he is in the action all the time. His shapeshifting skills are surpassed by none, maybe except Talos.
Mm-hmm.
And like, she's so much younger. Well, no, they're the same age. But like, he has more experience. Like, his upbringing, like he escaped the Kree on his own. Like, he's just tougher. He's just way tougher. There's no reason Gaia should have won that fight unless she like really wounded him pretty severely right out of the gate.
Gravik is a soldier and a spy.
Yeah.
Gaia is a spy.
Just a spy.
I mean, she's sort of a soldier, but not with the same experience that Gravik has.
Right. And she has a lot of martial fortitude. Don't get me wrong. She is not weak by any means. And not by the measurement of Skrull, not by the measurement of human. She's
Her bench
very
press
strong.
is probably crazy.
Yeah, her bench press is probably great. The scrolls are already way stronger than humans anyway,
Oh yeah.
and they can shapeshift. Thank the Lord bullets can kill them. I'm just like, oh gosh, there's no reason we should win this war. It's like, oh well, they're still not bulletproof. It's like, oh well, never mind. It's like if Superman was like, I'm really strong. It's like, are you bulletproof? No, I am not.
You're like, well, that's how we've been killing each other for the last 200 years. So sorry, friendo.
Get this. We're going to send a cruise missile into your face and you're going to be dead. And that was the end of Superman. Anyway. Yeah, the fight scene really, really, really bothered me. It didn't really make any sense. And the choreography was bad. The writing of that scene was bad. I didn't like that the finale was so short. It came in at 38 minutes, which was tied for the shortest episode we saw. On average, it was 9 minutes shorter than every other episode. Most of that comes from episode 1 and 2, which were almost an hour apiece. But this one was closer to 30 minutes than an hour. And like,
yeah, that stinks.
That seems like, I mean, just looking at the timestamp of the episode, you're like, did they not have enough material to finish this out well? And that's why it felt phoned in to me. It's just like, they just like, okay, they fight and they kill each other. I would have been much happier if this show ended on, I don't know, a cliffhanger. Like, like let people live, let people run away. Like, let this situation get out of hand so we don't know what's going to happen next. Is this story going to be continued in a movie? Are we going to see season 2? How is Nick Fury going to deal with this threat now that Gravik is super strong and out in the wild? Like, let him get away.
Now Nick Fury's biggest threat is other humans, which we're like, okay, that's nothing new in the course of human history, right? We've always been at each other's throats. So for him, right, for all intents and purposes, he is back to business as normal, which is what we see. He goes right up into Saber. So I get where you're coming from. I think you've got some really, really valid points. I felt like they left some tension behind with basically, like, you see like random politicians and stuff just getting absolutely shot. Like, people are just walking up and they're like, I think you're a Skrull. And they just start like blasting people, which honestly, this would happen. If you
100%.
We have seen that humans, if given the right, they're like, some people are just itching to cause violence. And I don't agree with people when they say people are intrinsically good. I said, no, I don't believe that. But people do have the capacity to be very good. People also have the capacity to be very evil. So, and that's exactly what we see. The president's basically like, all right, we're issuing a kill order for everything you might think is a Skrull. And he even says like, Skrulls get killed and then humans get killed because they're like, whoops, that one wasn't a Skrull. And then because this is all happening so fast, you don't get to see if any justice is taken for these people. Like, you're kind of like, oh, a random guy just like walked up and like shot a politician 3 times and then ran off. You're like,
for sure.
Whoa.
It is the Salem witch trials dialed up to 11
with pistols.
Like, oh, well, if she doesn't drown, she's not a witch. So I guess we'll try to drown her and see.
Witches aren't bulletproof. So then you use some of that backwards logic.
Yeah, it's like witches are bulletproof. It's like, but Skrulls and humans are both not bulletproof. I was like, what you could just take a blood sample, guys. Like, if the American people were so terrified that everyone around them was a Skrull, I think, and there's not that many Skrulls compared to humans, I think everyone would just be like, hey, we're just going to do a finger prick. We're not going to take your blood. We are just going to look to see if your blood is purple or not. Just a little finger prick. We're just going to prick it. We're not going to do anything. We're going to give you a Band-Aid, and then you're going to move on. If it comes out purple, we blow your brains out.
Yeah, so we're left with kind of a situation, like there's still bad things happening, but I think this is more leading into probably what we're going to see with the Marvels rather than anything related to Secret Invasion Season 2, if they're even going to plan on doing that, because it was supposed to be a movie. So I'm like, okay, if you're planning on doing a show, does that... There's still things that need to be done, but they don't feel urgent, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a lot of good things, a lot of bad things. Overall, I think you feel probably a little bit more satisfied with the ending than I do.
I feel like there was still some tension left over, yeah.
leftover tension is awesome. Assuming it's leftover tension written into the story, not like, hey, what's going on here? But let us know what you guys thought in the comments.
Please do. Please do. We love seeing it.
If you hit us up in the comments, we do want to see what your rating was out of 10. If we get enough comments, we'll see, hey, this is, what people thought of it. We'll show that average, at least for the finale specifically. So I gave the finale a 3. You gave it an 8?
Yes.
Okay. So
overall, because I felt like I really liked the series.
Yeah. Overall, yeah, I thought the series was awesome. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes it's hard to land the plane.
Super fair. All right, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Every single one of you is amazing, beautiful, handsome, whatever adjective you choose on this specific and wonderfully sunny Saturday. While we're doing our outro, again, if you guys are watching on YouTube, make sure to like or comment and subscribe. Do all those things. Plus, if you get to watch on YouTube, you get to see my dogs being silly goosers in the background. It's going to be fantastic. They love you guys all too. You guys know that we cover a variety of nerddoms here. We love Marvel, Star Wars, Warhammer, all of those things. So if you happen to play any of, I believe there's actually a tabletop game for all 3 of those franchises. So if you guys want to, share pictures of your models on Twitter or Instagram. If you have questions or theories or anything you guys would like to see and you guys want to share that on the podcast, email us at talkabouttatooine@gmail.com. All right, so thank you guys to our Patreon crew, Michael May, Isaac Young, and Luke Skywalker. You guys have been our first contributors to the podcast, and we're very thankful for every single one of you. Make sure everyone else, if you guys are watching, which we actually know because we can look at YouTube analytics, that most of you guys who are watching are not subscribed to the channel.
Please and thank you.
Watch the channel, listen, subscribe, do that thing. Make sure to share this with a friend because that's honestly one of the best ways we can grow. So that way this video will slice its way into the algorithmic feeds of other people because social media is run on math problems, and the more positive components we can get into our feed, the better. Theo says subscribe. Yeah, you hear that? That is your threat. You are being threatened by the dog to subscribe. We love every single one of you guys. Make sure you guys watch out. Finger prick your neighbor to make sure they're not a squirrel. Don't actually do that. And until next time, guys, we'll see you.
Close your eyes.